Hi friends, just sharing with you a story in honor of Palm Springs' 75th anniversary. A story here specifically regarding Palm Springs and the Coachella Valley. This was published in our Desert Sun newspaper Sunday, October 7th, 2012. And the title of the story is Society Full of Folklore, Tradition, Community Included Shamanism, Trading, and Intricate Bird Songs. And the story is by Bruce Fissier. It's an awesome story. When it came out, I tweeted it, and then when I went to search for it again, it was gone. So I'm sure you can contact the newspaper to get a copy of that. But meantime, since most of my elders in my family are visually impaired, I'm going to verbally read the story to you. And so I figured I might as well share it with everybody else to kind of give you, because that story is Palm Springs history, period. And it's everything to do with what I do, which is running Coachella Valley events, social networking community. Right here at the very first page at the top of Google, type in Coachella Valley events. The only links that are associated with me are the ones that I have listed on the blog, and I'll do all updates on the blog. So kind of gives you, we have the Wikipedia for Palm Springs, got the YouTubes, Twitter accounts. Kind of scroll there and see what I'm about, and do a lot of stuff here, so it makes it exciting to get to share some of the community events. And you can take a look in this particular Twitter account, CV Networking, and take a look there, scroll through the tweets, take a look at the favorites, some of the lists, see if it's some place that you'd like to follow as well. And here's the larger account you may be familiar with. It's at Coachella Events, but it's all the same thing. We have over 7,000 local followers. So I'm trying to keep a steady camera here. So if you kind of take a look, kind of see the different things that I tweet about. I try to highlight local businesses and just some of the different things that aren't necessarily directly related with the Coachella Valley, but they are. So just trust me on that. And you can kind of take a look at some of every once in a while I upload videos here and there. And this is a cool one. I did my Twitter roll. I recorded actually a section of some of my tweets, and that in the background is Mr. Johnny Cash, of course. So my Geronimo picture is not gonna be changing for the main one. That's the main Twitter account, and some of the main things that I do. So I want to thank everybody for following along on social media, and let's get back to the story at hand, which is the story at hand. It tells you all about Palm Springs. All right, hey, thanks for listening, and enjoy Palm Springs culture. Society full of folklore, tradition, community included shamanism, trading, and intricate bird songs. And this was a story published in the Desert Sun last year in 2012. And the story is by Bruce Fissier. And I'm just going to go ahead and read it to you word for word. And I'll try to hold a steady camera as well. In the decades before the Agua Caliente band of Cahuilla Indians developed a modern constitution-based government, stories of shamans performing supernatural feats were as real to tribal members as government efforts to get them to assimilate into America's melting pot. Pedro Chino, the last great Agua Caliente shaman, transformed himself into animals and communed with the dead, according to Agua Caliente Cultural Museum oral histories given by recently deceased tribal elders. He also transported himself under the San Jacinto Mountains from the Palm Springs to Saboba Hot Springs. When he got down there, it was just like out here. You could walk around, said Avino Siva, who died in 2009 at age 86. I should have asked Pedro how they were connected with the water because nobody knows. Chino died in 1939, and his funeral attracted Native Americans from throughout Southern California. Newspapers said he was 123, but Anthony Andreas Jr. said in another oral history he was 101. That's nothing to fool with, Andreas said of shamanism. You got to know the language, you got to know the traditional practice, what you're doing it for. sophisticated society. The federal government said in 1891 Indians were not properly advanced in civilization to own and manage parcels of land, but anthropologists who have studied the Agua Caliente say their traditional society was more sophisticated than people might think. The way they managed their environment was very precise, said Lowell Bean, a doctor of anthropology who has authored many books and oral histories on Cahuilla Indians. They understood the flora and fauna and their collective function and how they should have proper respect for them. They understand their usefulness. I never ceased to be amazed that the Agua Caliente were the great traders between the coast and the Colorado River, added Michael Hammond, another doctor of anthropology who directs the Agua Caliente Cultural Museum. The arrow straighteners that have been recovered archaeologically here are made of stachelite. That source material comes from Catalina Island. This was a well-functioning social, political organization amongst the Cahuilla people. Before white men arrived in the 19th century, the Agua Caliente traveled to the Mojave River, Los Angeles, and San Diego, Bean said, trading clothing, dried meats from herds of antelopes, and shells from the ancient Lake Cahuilla. They generally lived in harmony because their religion made them believe their existence depended on sharing with one another. There are some cultures where aggressive behavior is condoned, said Bean. The Plain Indians have a very different attitude about warfare. Here, things were very stable. You had fixed boundaries and people knew who they were and where they belonged. They rarely violated. The Agua Caliente were famous for their finely woven baskets, but Hammond said the baskets weren't as valuable on the open market as what was in them. These were utilitarian objects, he said. It wasn't until the railroads came in that the tribal members began making baskets to sell, to get money so they could go to the grocery store. Once tourism started coming, baskets took on designs that looked like needlepoint. These were baskets that they knew would sell. We have a basket very beautifully made, and woven into it are the words Indian baskets. Recreational activities were a big part of the Agua Caliente culture. Men gambled at peon, a game of deception in which players from one team guessed which players on the opposing team were holding small sticks and a white bone in their hands. Bean said that he watched exciting peon contests as late as the 1980s on the Morongo Reservation. Women would line up behind the men and sing to encourage their team and intimidate their opponents. Popular early sports included marksmanship competitions with bows and arrows and throwing sticks that would circle like boomerangs. Baseball became popular in the early 20th century. One athlete, John Mayer, went on to hit .358 as a catcher for the New York Giants in the 1910s. Running contests always were popular. The Agua Caliente also were very musical. They performed ceremonial songs for occasions ranging from wakes and weddings to hunting expeditions. Clan songs were sung by men on visits to other villages to proclaim their identities. Albert Potencio's nephew, Joe Potencio, was known as the Caruso of the Cahuillas, and Bean for singing many long-forgotten song cycles as long as Wagnerian operas. Andreas was one of the few tribal members of his generation to continue singing the complex bird songs. One day I asked Anthony Andreas, "Tony, do you really go through the whole thing?" He said, "If we make a mistake, we just start over again," said Viola Ortner, who grew up in Palm Springs in the 1920s. The people that used to do the bird songs, it was very serious to them. They would get very upset, but they couldn't talk to the young ones. Siva, also a respected bird singer, said his uncle Rodriguez from the mountain Cahuillas tried to pass along his clan's ceremonial songs, but stopped just before he died. I started thinking, why didn't he pass these down to my father? Then it dawned on me. Said Siva. We can't mix Christianity with our religion. When my dad went to that Catholic boarding school, St. Boniface in Banning, he became a Christian. That's why his brother, who was quite a bit older than him, never taught him those songs. He could see my father had gone the other way. The Agua Caliente practiced other traditional ways while often engaging the white man in the courtroom. 2 legal battles went all the way to the Supreme Court before 1950. Ortner's great-uncle, Miguel Saturino, was one of the many skilled Indian cowboys. He died in 1938 at age 73 while attending a tribal meeting after rounding up cattle at Edom Hill. Palm Springs cowboy mayor, the late Frank Bogart, said Chino herded cattle well into his 90s while looking out for his tribe's spiritual and physical health as its pavu'ul. He used to go up on a cattle ranch in the Beaumont area and then come back here and head cattle up the valley, Bogart said before his death in 2009 at age 99. One time there was a gal that was going to have a baby, and she went over to Saboba and had it in the hospital. Pedro Chino went to the Indian agent and just raised hell because she went up there to a hospital. They had to bring her back and have her go through the Cahuilla ceremony. I talked to her afterwards. What the hell was it, the ceremony? The minute the baby is born, they put the mother in the ground and cover her with warm sand, and the baby too, to cleanse them. Then they bring them out and wash them up. Pedro Chino died before Albert Potencio did, and he did not have a successor. If the net had a son, he could be the successor, but the pavuvu, he had to be taught by some other guy and had to be handpicked. It was interesting that nobody inherited his job. Siva attested to Chino's powers. Siva attested Chino's powers with a story about William Pablo, who lived from 1850 to 1835 and was appointed a captain by the 19th century Cahuilla chief Cabezon. Captains were appointed by the Nets to serve as spokesmen and translators for white leaders. Pablo developed a high profile as an early advocate for tribal sovereignty in Washington, D.C. At the turn of the century, the Department of Indian Affairs hired him as a prohibition officer against the sale of alcohol to Indians and the reservation police officer. Bridging Indian and non-Indian worlds, Pablo shared a Cahuilla creation story with photographer Edward S. Curtis in 1914 and let Lucille Hooper record him performing bird songs in 1918. But Siva and Pablo went too far when he gave a sacred bundle used in Cahuilla roundhouse ceremonies to the Los Angeles County Fair in Pomona. Pablo got sick and Chino told him the sacred bundle was killing him. He told Pablo he wouldn't come to his aid if he ever put the sacred bundle on display again. Then he did it again, and Siva, he got sick again. They called Chino, but he refused. He died. And this is Pedro Chino. This just came out in a recent publication of a Desert Magazine for April of this year, 2013. And of course, that's a picture of Geronimo. And some of these other pictures here are... Okay, man on the horse. This is Miguel Saturino from Agua Caliente. This is from Agua Caliente Cultural Museum. So, very cool picture. That is Lil Bean. He's the leading cultural anthropologist of the Cahuilla Indians, and this is when he was talking with the Desert Sun. And down here is Anthony Andreas Jr. and the picture was provided by the Agua Caliente Cultural Museum. Okay, and that is this particular story that came out in the newspaper, and I just wanted to share it with everybody, celebrating Palm Springs' 75th anniversary today, which is pretty awesome. So this is Palm Springs' birthday history and culture of our Coachella Valley.